Hey, crazy nut golfers. This is Chris, and this is the Golf Aggressive Podcast. I want to welcome you, and I also want to thank our sponsor, Whataburger. This week or this month, we are giving away a year of Whataburger. And if you don't have a Whataburger, tough titty, we don't care. Whataburger is the best there is when it comes to a hamburger. They use high quality meats. They use high quality vegetables, and it tastes damn good, son. Eat it up. Right, Rich?
Yeah, it is. It just doesn't gel well with our flat belly challenge, but we love having them as our sponsor.
You know, you can get salads there.
You can.
You don't have to get the burger. However, if you've been busting your hump, like many of our golfers do, like Josh Hanoja, Josh, you need to contact us and tell us how to pronounce your name because we want to give you credit. This guy, he makes like the longest putts I've ever seen indoors. I don't know how big his golf shop is. It's enormous. But I remember that one from last year when we were doing the No More Three Putts challenge, and he went deep.
I would start moving all the equipment off the floor so I could set up more indoor putts.
I know, it's almost turning into Caddyshack 2 in there. All the stuff he's got.
Yeah. But getting back to the Whataburger, I mean, we always promote like an 80-20 or a 90-20 eating rule. So, you know, it doesn't limit us to not having a splurge once a week. So that's the great thing about what we do.
Yeah, I mean, if you work hard, you earn it, but that doesn't mean you go to Whataburger every day that week. I mean, I've seen you do that. I remember back in the day when we worked at the golf course in the bag room, you do a Whopper run, and you would eat 2 Whoppers in one sitting with a large Coke and fries, and you wanted more when you were done.
You couldn't beat that back in the day when the Whoppers were $1 each. I mean,
but I gotta tell you, that stuff is like dog meat compared to Whataburger.
Yeah, definitely.
And you have an inside source at Whataburger that tells you how good and how rough it is to get good quality meat, but they do it. So it costs a little more, but it's also worth it. So anyway, visit Whataburger today. And Rich, we're giving away a year of Whataburger. You're going to give a clue and the answer out later in this podcast. But now let's get down to it. We're in the Rust Buster Challenge, and we've got a pretty good turnout. And I will say this, the most successful golfers are the ones that participate either on their check-ins in email or on Facebook. We've got a lot of guys that don't even report in on Facebook. They just email us, and that's cool. Rich tracks all of that, and he's going to have a leaderboard up. And this past week, we've just been doing consistency. We've just been trying to learn some new habits, and we haven't really gone too far into the golf coaching yet. But we're going to get there. And Rich, why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the new guys and the members and their progress, and who all do we have that's being consistent?
So what we have around 300 plus signups. So that's the thing, is that not everyone wants to use Facebook to check in. So while we have 300 plus signups for the Rust Buster Challenge, we have a handful on both either the Facebook page or the coaching group that are checking in each day. And like Chris said, we do have or do see results when every day you're doing the checklist and checking in. It's like it seems to resonate with improving, and this whole challenge is to get you ready for the season. And so we have let me see, we got Brian, Terry, Robert Watt, Steve Saxton, Josh Hanoja, and that have really pretty much done everything so far in the challenge. And then we've got some of our
guys too.
Yeah, and I'm going to add those to the sheet. And then we've got a couple of our regulars, Scott Bergson, Bob Nixon, Larry Horry.
And they're posting inside of the members mastermind community that's private, right?
Yeah. So, and really, this challenge is to prep before the season. And now, from me and you perspective, we have a hard time with this one and we really had to brainstorm to come up with this because we live in places where we play golf all year round, and so trying to put ourselves in shoes of where you've sat out 2 or 3 months because of you're snowed in, or you've got family commitments during the holidays. Those things are difficult for us to resonate with because we play all year round where we're at. So we've designed this challenge basically to, one, knock the rust off, but make sure you have these checkpoints in place so that when golf season does start, you're ready to get into your practice sessions and you're ready to start playing some good golf.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I thought about it, and I would want to know where I was at. So we had them on day one install a golf tracking app or use a scorecard. We need to know our numbers, and we need to know them all season long because we're going to go after the low-hanging fruit all the time because that's how we're going to get better, and we're just going to work our way back into golf form early. But, part of this is developing habits. And, on day one, I put up kind of keys to developing habits. And number one is start with an incredibly small habit, baby steps. That way you don't feel overwhelmed and then you move on. So, I mean, how easy is it to go on the Google Play Store or iTunes and find a tracking app? And you might have to go through a couple and you may have to use a few, but you need to get that done and you need to know your numbers, not just how far you hit your clubs. And I don't give a shit about TrackMan. I just don't. I don't like it. It has no bearing on your score, really. So why even mess with that crap? We don't care about that. What we care about is, what side of the fairway are you on consistently? What are your bad shots consistently? How are you out of the sand? How many putts per round do you have? How many fairways do you hit or miss? These are the things that we need to know because then we can go in and assess these and then help you get better. And I don't think TrackMan can do that. Rich, what do you think? TrackMan, lover?
I like TrackMan, and I like all that data that these GPS or Doppler radar type devices provide. A lot of people don't know what that information is and how to change it. So you could be changing things that really you shouldn't be, but because you're looking at these numbers and it's not interpreted correctly, that's when it can get you into trouble. But getting to the stats, at the very minimum, 5 to 10 rounds can get you a base. And this is one of the things, while it may not help you right away, if you start tracking your rounds now, when it comes to coming back from an off season next year, you've got all this data from 2016 that you can reference. And that's what we get into in this challenge is we start warming you up, doing checkpoints and making sure everything's consistent for the season. But if you don't have a reference point, that's where we need to establish one. If you have a reference point, then you can carry that over to the next season.
Yeah, we need to know where you're at right now because, I mean, it is the beginning of the season and you may do certain things better than other things this early in the season. We need to know what you're doing the worst.
Yeah, and stats really allow us to identify weaknesses that you may not actually be aware of. For example, you can track just the basics, fairways, greens, putts, and see that you're having, on a consistent basis, under 30 putts, which is excellent. But that may not really give you true indication on what you should be working on. So getting into more in-depth stat tracking, it could be, so what's your yardage on your second shots to par fours? Are you hitting the green? What's your percentage of hitting the green? Are you missing it left of the green or right of the green? Because you may identify with additional tracking on your round that it really isn't putting that you need to work on. It could be your 180 to 220 yard shot. And I think a lot of those GPS tracking devices like the Game or Game Golf or Arcos really pull into that stat where it identifies areas in your game that you may not be aware of.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the keys to developing habits. That's number one. You got to start with an incredibly small habit. So get your stats in check and underway. And we gave a couple of suggestions, and I got ripped on some of them because they were in Australian dollars, Rich, which I think is like, is that like Monopoly money almost? It's almost worthless, right?
Well, that was a weird one. The one that you recommend, it's actually a really good app. But their pricing model, they've got two. So if you go on the website, excuse me.
But we don't need to buy any apps though. I mean, we could track this with scorecards.
Scorecard and spreadsheet. Yeah. I mean, that's really what I like to do, because a lot of people like to play golf and get away from the technology. And that's why, there's so many good apps out there that do GPS stuff, but they're on your phone and people just want to go away from that.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you about the best way to improve at the game of golf that no one has probably ever told you before. You need to have habits and you need to have discipline. And you need to be consistent. So success is a few simple disciplines practiced every day, while failure is simply a few errors in judgment repeated every day. And that's from Jim Rohn. So that's what we solve here with the single digit blueprint, giving you these checklists. We break it down. We make it easy. We make the drills easy, because golf can be overwhelming. So these checklists, we increase things, we add things, but only after you've had time to master them. And I think people that have been participating have seen that, and they're also feeling quite a bit better. So
we've done this for so long now that we noticed that. So the golfers that are consistently doing the checklist and checking in progressively get better. And it goes back to, if you look at the PGA Tour players, and there's lots of YouTube clips out there with their pre-round warm-ups and what they go through. And they do that exact same routine every time they go play. And
success is boring. However, I'm going to call out one of our longtime friends, Ron Griffin. Mr. Do everything he can possibly do. Ron, I know you're listening. You got to chill out. You just got to stick to your plan. Baby steps. Remember Ron in the Power and Distance Challenge? He was like running 8 miles a day and doing extra workouts and all kinds of stuff. You got to stick to the plan. It's simple. It's easy. It's repeatable. And it's one of those things where you can just show up and do it and move on about your day, just like a workout. The workouts that get long and drawn out in multiple phases and steps, you end up quitting. So we want to just get in, get out real quick. Number 4 is for habit building is when you slip. And this happens a lot with people at New Year's. They do great for 3 or 4 days, and then they go into their old habits for a day. Well, that's okay. On day 6, do what you should do on day 6. If that's eat right, then eat right on day 6. Don't beat yourself up over day 5 because it went bad. And don't sit there and say, oh, well, I'm going to make this up. You're just doing too much. You can only do so much in a day. Just get back on the bike and ride off. Don't even think about it. Don't beat yourself up. It's not worth it. We're talking one day. You screwed up for one day. So get back on the bike. And then number 5 is be patient. You just got to punch out every single day. And at the end of a week, at the end of 2 weeks, 3, 4 weeks, you're going to be much better than you were on day 1. And I can promise you this. We've gotten a ton of results from this. So, Rich, that's our 5 habits. I'll go over them real quick.
Yeah.
Number 1, start with an incredibly small habit, baby steps, and then progress once you have it mastered. Number 2, increase your habit in very small ways. That's what we do. We add some things to the checklist down the road. We don't worry about it making everything complicated and crazy. Number 3, stick to the plan. We give you incredibly detailed plans. Just stick to it. Don't add things to it. Don't do extra things to it. We have a very clear focus of what we're trying to accomplish. We don't need to muddy the water. Number 4, when you slip, get back on track quickly. Number 5, be patient and do the work. So that's it. What do you think, Rich?
Yeah, that's perfect. Because that's what happens is that we fall off the wagon and we have a problem with getting back onto it, or we overload ourselves with so many things that our brain just explodes, and we're trying to do so many things. I would add another thing is, especially for the Rust Buster Challenge, is to lower expectations. We expect a lot from, especially as golfers. Rich,
are you talking about when you go into a bar?
Definitely not. But yeah, no, the expectation level, we could have come off a high at the end of our season, and then we haven't touched our clubs for 2 weeks to 2, 3, 4 months, and we expect
that can be really brutal on the brain.
So going back to the baby steps, which is our point number 1, is really critical in that, and with that, just lowering the expectations a little bit. And just trying to have some fun with this, because it may take you 14 days to warm up your golf game. It may take a little bit longer, but these key habits are key into prepping your game for the season.
And I want to add, if you don't want to put yourself out there onto Facebook, I want to encourage you to email us, because you really have to put this out there and let other people see it. When other people see what you're doing, it becomes real. You can even put a goal up on your own personal Facebook page that says, hey, I want to break such and such this year. This is my goal. Then everybody knows your goal. And an amazing thing happens. If you have a good set of friends, they're going to help you, push you towards that goal. And they may give you some tough love at times, but if they know what your goal is, they can help you. So if you stray off track, they can help you. So if you tell everybody, hey, I'm going to try to lose 10 pounds, I would appreciate your help. Well, when you go out to eat with them, they're going to remind you, I can guarantee you.
Yeah, I think us golfers are a weird breed when it comes to that. It's how do I put it? So you're golfing buddies, and say if you have a golfing group that you play for money, you want to beat them and they want to beat you. But I think if they're true golfing buddies, they're willing to help you no matter what. And what we often find is, and that's why the coaching. Yeah, I mean,
if they're not willing to help you, then they're probably not buddies.
Yeah, and that's what I've found. I've got a good group of guys that play in our money game, and we're willing to help each other out. But at the same time, we're so competitive that we want to beat each other as well. But the key with our coaching group, and that's one of the reasons why we made it private, is that you can come and set those goals out in the open public to a private group, so that other people can help you and encourage you along the way. Because for some reason, and we'll touch on this later on down the year when we're going to work on some referral programs where you can bring your buddies in and get some kickbacks on that. And so we don't see.
What's funny though, Rich, is people. I've heard it multiple times. They don't want to tell their friends about the blueprint because they don't want their friends to get better than them.
Yeah,
We've had several guys win club championships in the past year. They've never done anything even close to that before.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll launch some referral programs in the next few months that will bring that in, so that you can bring your buddies in and get some kickbacks on that. I think that's one of the ways we can work on doing that. I don't know the disconnect right now on why that is. I do think it's because golf, we're an individual sport. We want to better ourselves, but at the same time beat our competitors. And this is kind of like trying to find that edge. It's like on tour. Those guys don't often tell us everything that they're doing. They want that competitive edge. We never know what Tiger's doing.
It's Ben Hogan's secret.
That's it.
I'll tell you what Ben Hogan's secret move was showing up every day. That was his secret move, getting into the car and going to the golf course.
And I touched on that on a video I did yesterday. It's basically, it's a memory bank. And golfers that are either a high handicap don't have a very large memory bank. So if they've got a 30-foot putt, they may not know what to do. It's, but for scratch golfers or golfers that play on a regular basis, have got a larger memory bank, and they've got this intel stored so that when a certain situation or shot pops up, they know what to do. So we've got a call.
Hello, Richard.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, the memory bank, I want to caution everybody you got to close your mind from all the distractions coming into it, like phones ringing.
I've silenced my cell phone, but not the office line
and stuff like that, because if you watch, I know everybody's super fired up and they're excited to this golf season to get out there and do stuff. And you're probably watching golf shows and reading golf magazines and this and that. You need to turn it off. With the Rust Buster Challenge, if you're participating or any of our other challenges, you don't need anything else. We're working on a specific goal. We're making it simple, and we're creating focus so you can build that memory bank that Rich is talking about. And when you build that memory bank with perfect practice, and you can do it under pressure, and it becomes muscle memory, and you've greased your groove so it's automatic, you don't have to worry about it. You can move on to the next thing. However, if you're just jumping around from tip to tip to tip every day, I want to play you for money, because I will take everything that you have in your wallet. I mean, the tip of the day golfer is usually the worst golfer there is. And like I said, success is boring. So break up with Michael Breed and tell him it's you, it's not me, and move on down the road.
That's what I say with my driver all the time. It's you, not me.
You got to throw it every once in a while, Rich. Come on. And, we did that survey. What was it, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Huge response. I mean, I'm really impressed with how fast we're growing now. Things are just starting to move ahead. But the number one thing people wanted was stretching and flexibility. And I will tell you, if you can get into the Rust Buster, it's all in there. There's videos, there's all kinds of stuff. What you're going to do is you could even follow along if you wanted. You're going to feel better. And some people are doing this like 1 or 2 times, or at least once a day, even on workout days. You don't have to. We have it set up to where you don't do that. You do it on off days. But before bed, if you're not feeling great and you're tight, go ahead and do it, and it's going to help you out.
Yeah, that decompression program that you've put in there after the walking challenge, I mean, that right there alone just, for me personally helped out, because after a walk, it could be a 20 to 30 minute walk, I would really tighten the lower back. But if I did the decompression soon after it, I felt $1 million.
Yeah. And I'm going to Austin, Texas, the end of April to go to the On It Academy. And they have an entire curriculum on decompression and stretching and mobility and all that. They call it durability. And as a golfer, this is probably the number one thing that's going to keep you playing golf into your old age. And Rich, you are a victim to a lot of tight muscles. You've had some issues in the past, some knots and things like that just kept getting progressively worse until you actually started doing some foam rolling, some stretching, and went in and got some massages too.
Well, I was just stubborn. I was just stubborn to not doing stretching. And so my muscles would tighten up so much from either doing cardio or elliptical or running or whatever it was. And by the time, it got so tight that I would either get plantar fasciitis, or I have a calf sprain, injury, or I would hurt my knee, basically because I wasn't stretching and creating that looseness that I needed.
Yeah, and those are called overuse injuries. If you're not taking care of the equipment, it's going to break down. I mean, it's just like getting an oil change. You got to do these things, and I guarantee you're going to feel better. I used to have a problem with my right hip and my low back. Anytime I got on an airplane, when I got off the airplane, I was miserable for like weeks until I just figured out foam rolling, stretching that area, and just doing some mobility drills. And guess what? It's gone away. It hasn't bothered me since.
Yeah.
And if you're being stubborn like Rich was, just hop back in there, try it out. It's in the Rust Buster. And then we got into later in the week, it's greasing the groove. And, we talk about what greasing the groove is, and a lot of you guys already know. We call it GTG for short. And they posted up a funny video in the members area. I think some guy was on trains, and
it reminded me as a kid, because I was the only golfer in my entire high school, and so I would bring my clubs to school, and so everyone looked at me weird, and I'd be the same guy, and I'd be like this in the classroom, and that's what that video is like. He's doing that on the train. He was
it was a little weird though. He was in the bathroom.
Yeah, he was at the urinal.
I don't know, that one. They should have rethought that one. Edited that out.
I thought it was great. I mean, that's what golf does to people. It's addictive. It's like a drug. It's a very good drug. So so that's really what greasing the groove is. It's just grooving your swing, creating that repetition, that muscle memory, so that when you do go into and usually our greasing the groove drills are working towards a particular range session. And so they kind of gel together. So when you do go do your range session, it just boosts the productivity for it.
The more you do something, the stronger the neural pathways become in your brain. So if you can train yourself to do it right as opposed to wrong, you're going to the range and you're just, I'm going to try this on this swing, or I'm going to try that on this swing. Or Michael Breed said, do this. And then tomorrow you're changing it back up. You're not really laying a foundation. I mean, think about how long it takes to build a highway. They got to figure out all the drainage. They got to figure out the route. They have to figure out how to reroute traffic. It's a major undertaking, but when that road is done, it works great. The same thing with your brain. You have to program it with the proper mechanics the right way. So if you're not working with a PGA Pro, I recommend it. But the more that you do it and the more that you do it right, the better you're going to groove it and the stronger that movement is going to be under pressure. Because if it's not strong and the pathways aren't strong enough, under pressure, I guarantee you're going to screw it up. So that's the GTG, and we just do that randomly, 10 to 15 minutes per day. And that's
we usually have it to where you could do it anywhere. And I mean, the way we try and emphasize is that if you basically work from home or you're in an office, is just have clubs lying around everywhere. I think most of us have some extra clubs in our stash, so that we can just place them randomly across the house, your office. And so when you get up from your desk to go get a drink, grab a club and do whatever drill that you're working on. And it could be just for a couple of minutes. Total 15 minutes during the day. And that way it just programs things. And we started out basically just rehashing your setup and alignment. For chipping, we're starting small, and then we'll go to set up an alignment for putting and setting up an alignment for just your regular shots. So the greasing the groove touches more on the fundamentals, making sure we've got everything in place first. That way we've got that sound base and foundation. So when the season starts or when we need to get into our practice sessions, we're ready to go with the core fundamentals of your swing.
Yeah, chipping is such a feel thing too. The greasing the groove really helps get you comfortable so that you're able to focus on a better shot pattern. So then we move in from that, and we move into getting your equipment checked. And I mean, I had some clubs for quite a while, and I went and I got the lofts checked, and they were all over the map. It's really important to have your clubs checked for the simple fact. And I'm not even going to talk about fitting. I'm going to talk about distance gapping. You need to be able to use every club in your bag because you need them for different distances. if you have two clubs that are the same distance, and that can happen when your lofts change. One loft could become stronger. One loft could loosen up, and or stay the same. And those two clubs, they become closer and closer together distance wise. So it's really important that you get in. And I think we put this out on a Friday to get in and get that equipment checked. Is really important. And it doesn't, I mean, it's like $1 a club for them to bend it back to factory standards. And you can find most of the factory lies and lofts online.
Yeah, and that's what you will start to do is go to the website that you have your clubs for, print out the specs of your clubs. That way you've got the base of what they were supposed to be. Because that doesn't mean that you got them at those specs, but that's what they're supposed to be at. And that way you give that to your repair guy and say, this is what I want them at. Or at the same time, if he knows what he's doing, he may have a option to lie test you. That way you can get on a lie board and see whether or not you need to go a couple of degrees upright or a couple of degrees flat, or neutral's fine. That way he's got a reference point. He can understand your swing to see whether or not the changes are going to fit that swing, and then he'll fix all the gaps.
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't have to be overly complicated either. A lot of these guys I'm seeing today, the biomechanic guys, are just really, I think, overdoing it. I mean, if your lie is correct and your lofts are correct, your lie being relative to you, because I'm 6'3", Rich is 4'8". Our lies are different on the clubs. And although our swings are based on the same similar fundamentals, they look completely different just because of our height. And his clubs, I mean, they're almost flat to the ground, it seems like, to me.
I have mine 2 degrees flat.
Mine are 1 degree upright.
Yeah.
And
they
can
change also one of the toes up in the air.
Yeah, it looks like your famous chipping shot opposite. So yeah, I mean, just get them in there, get them checked. You don't have to go in for a big fitting. A lot of that is a lot of hoopla to sell you some clubs. But if you can go in and just say, look, I want to just make sure that these work properly for me.
Yeah.
And I don't want to buy a new set. I just want to have these fitted to me.
Yeah, we could do the Parsons Extreme golf experience for a club fit. It's only $12,500.
What does that include, Rich?
I actually do think you get an entire set. I don't know if you get the bag.
How much are they normally?
You're probably going to drop about $5,000 maybe
for a set of clubs.
I think maybe a little bit more, because the irons itself are $3,500. Then
so
you throw in a driver, a 3-wood, wedges, and putter.
Clubs any better than Mizuno's or Titleist? The people that have been making clubs for 100 years.
Look, I haven't seen one and I haven't tested it, so I can't reference it. But based on what I've watched on how everything started, and I understand what he's done. He's basically, there's no expense held back when it comes to producing the iron, whereas the big production companies, they have a bottom line number. So,
but do you really think that Titleist holds back?
No, I don't either.
I don't. But do you think TaylorMade is holding back when they're trying to get market share?
Well, here's the deal with the other companies, and I know it's slightly changed now. Like Titleist drivers used to come with a Diamana shaft. Now, a real Diamana shaft can cost $300 to $500. Now you're buying a Titleist driver for that with a Diamana shaft. So there's some difference between that shaft and the real one. And so when you go get the driver from PXG or whatever it is,
but Rich, that could also be that they buy it in volume. They buy tons and tons and tons of those shafts so they can get it at a lower cost than you can off the shelf.
There's differences between the two.
Well, we need to get a shaft expert on here.
Yeah. So that's where they haven't held anything back. So you've seen it all along. Every week, some guy wins with a $40 driver on tour. But look at his shaft. It's a $500 shaft.
I think we're getting too crazy, though. I mean, you could give not Tiger Woods anymore, but you could give Jordan Spieth a 1976 set of clubs and he would beat your ass with them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's still hitting it at a sweet spot. Sweet spot's still going to be small. It doesn't matter. I mean, the benefit of the technology is catering to the amateur golfer. The misses.
I know, but like, how is a $5,000 set of clubs any better than what TaylorMade's putting out? It's so competitive out there. I gotta believe that I don't know anything about them. I'll be honest. I don't know all this or that, but Ping brought in Boeing to help with their driver. You know, they know more than Boeing about aerodynamics.
Yeah. And I think Parsons Extreme has a guy from Ping building their clubs too. So
yeah, but Ping went to Boeing.
I know. Yeah. That is probably the downside of what I don't like with our industry is that we have these clubs and they're good. But the next one comes out, and it's with technology. It's with the whole digital age that we live in.
Why don't we just try to get Mr. Parsons on the podcast?
Yes.
I'm serious, and ask him about it because I don't know anything about the clubs. I will say this: they look amazing.
Yeah, I do like them.
Clubs look really, really cool. And that event that you're talking about, the club fitting and the rounds of golf, and I don't know what all else comes with it, but it looks pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, if I had a spare 12K, I'd do it because it's an experience. It's not just a go for a club fitting. You're getting club fitted. You get hotel at the Four Seasons or wherever it is. You get to play Scottsdale National, which is the company that owns that course. So it is an experience. But then at the same time, I'm like, I said it last night in the coaching group. I'm like, do you drop 12K for this? Or do you go get, 3 or 4 day experience with Butch Harmon for 5K? I mean, I
know what I would do.
Yeah, I know what you'd do. So
I don't even think you can get Butch for that. But
no, I think the package that has him in that I don't know how often in the 3 or 4 day package that it is. It's about between, I think it's around 5K. So it's actually not that bad.
What he does with golfers before and after, I don't think there's been anybody like it. But I got to say, I'm really impressed. I don't know who Phil hired because he went away from Butch. But I am really impressed with Phil Mickelson and his improvement. I mean, he's always been good. And I would say he's probably better than he's ever been, even back in his 30s, because, I mean, he's more seasoned. The swing is better. But I think the competition today, right now, past couple of years, is as good as it's been in a long, long time. And for him to be doing well at his age, I'm really impressed. Do you know anything about his coach?
I actually have no idea who he went to. So I don't know. But
maybe that's like our single-digit blueprint. He's not talking.
Yeah. And, it's funny you say that because I think the competition level is being highly competitive for, 10 years now. It's just that Tiger at quite a few points had blown everyone away that it made it look like the competition wasn't there. But if you go back and look,
I think the last 3 years has been more competitive than since the 1970s, with Jack and Gary Player and all those guys. And
I think it was
the 40s and 50s.
Yeah. I think it was still there back when Tiger was dominating. If you look at those events that he blew everyone out, you look at the rest of the field, and if he wasn't there, that field would be competitive. It's just that he had that one guy that was way up above everyone else. I think the competition's still there. It's just now that Tiger's not there and not one single person, and we got really spoiled with Tiger.
Well, I'll say this for Tiger. I think he elevated what it was to be a professional golfer to where, what this podcast is about. It's about everything. It's not just about hitting the ball like it used to be back in the day. It's about everything. It's about equipment. It's about your body. It's about your mind. It's about just getting better every single day at every single little thing that you can possibly do. And that goes with nutrition. I mean, look at these guys and the condition that they are in right now. They look amazing. We got Rory, Adam Scott, Ricky Fowler. I mean, look at the change that he's made in his body in the past 3 years. It's serious business because it's serious money. So I think we can thank Tiger for elevating it. Not that Gary Player didn't, but he was in an era where they just didn't get it. He was the exception to the rule. Now, if you're out of shape, you're probably not near the top of the leaderboard anymore. And that's just the simple facts. I don't know. Some of these guys like Tim Herron, they'll pop their heads in every once in a while, but from a week-to-week basis, they're not around. At least I don't know of any.
You know what's going to happen now? An overweight golfer is going to win the Arnold Palmer.
We need to get to Vegas and make some bets.
Yeah. And, the USGA has been talking about that, or the media has, should they be dialing back the technology because people are hitting it so far now? I mean, 300 plus is the average now on tour. So, but they were talking about maybe they're dialing it back. But to be honest, think about this. And you don't like TrackMan, but technology like that.
Well, at that level, TrackMan makes sense.
Yeah, but if
you're just a hacker on the street, it makes no sense.
Right, but that's what I'm getting at their level. I'm talking about the pros now. If the pros had that data, that information like TrackMan does provide back in the day with their Persimmon Woods and all that kind of stuff, I think we would see the same increases in performance. Hitting the ball longer with the Persimmon wood. I think it's definitely possible. It's just that we didn't have that technology back then. So now that we have the technology and they're fine tuning it, we have available. You're
right. If they would have had it available back then, they would have used it because there's money involved.
Yeah.
But Tiger, I don't think everybody was doing what he was doing. And I think that's what set him apart. And I also think he has an incredible will to win and an incredible work ethic when he's not at the Waffle House. But it's just like we were talking earlier.
Yeah.
If you want to go to Whataburger and you've been busting your ass all week, go for it. That's what Tiger did. He would bust his ass all week and he would go to the Waffle House. Let's be real. But he worked his butt off every single day.
That would be pretty cool if he had Waffle House sponsored on his golf bag or on his shirt.
I don't think he's fallen that far.
We need another big scandal to happen so all of his sponsors drop and then some new ones will come on board.
I mean, we're talking about like John Daly. How many scandals has that guy had? And it doesn't get near the press. Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods was just having fun.
Yeah.
I would wager that most of the guys, if they're presented with that opportunity, some wouldn't, but most probably would partake in the Waffle House. But with that said, we're going to wrap it up.
Hang on. We got one more thing.
What's that?
We need to talk about the Whataburger giveaway clue.
Oh, yeah.
So in our last podcast, we gave you what the clue, the question was for the clue, and that's where Whataburger's headquarters is. And we've had quite a few people come in, and it's either between Corpus Christi, which is where they used to be, and San Antonio. So I'm going to give you the answer. It's San Antonio. So just go to golfaggressive.com/Whataburger and enter your name, email, and the clue, which is San Antonio. Click submit, and at the end of the month, we'll pick a winner.
And Paul Rock, can probably make another entry.
Yeah, those who have put the incorrect clue, or they didn't put a clue for some reason, it did take a couple of applications without clues, resubmit. And then if you review us on iTunes and we see that review go live, or email us and we'll double your entry.
Yep. And we want to thank Paul Rock for loving the Whataburger as much as we love it. And Paul, he had the flu last week. And then I saw he posted, he said, like the day before, he's like, oh, I have fever, I'm sick, I don't know what's wrong with me. And then the next day he said he was at the hospital visiting. I don't know if he was spreading the flu.
It's like the daycare my son's in.
It's like, I need to get out. I need to get out of the house. I'm going to go do something. I was just giving you a hard time, Paul. But that is this week of the Rust Buster Challenge on the podcast. And Rich has filmed some new videos, the Dunk It video. And Rich is only like 4'5".
I'm pushing
Dunk
4'4".
It's a good thing the hoop in golf is at ground level.
I have no problem dunking a golf ball.
I saw the video and I was like, whoa, man, this guy is really, really consistent. So that's going to be put up on Saturday, tomorrow, right? Today's Friday.
Yep. Yeah, Today they're checking the clubs. Tomorrow, the Grease in the Groove will be the Dunk It Challenge. And it's just prepping them for distance control. Because one of the things with being rusty coming off an off season is that your distance control goes away. So we're going to tackle that with chipping, and we're going to also tackle with putting later next week. Just get those, like we said earlier, the memory bank. We're going to start building that up. That's what it comes back to with this.
So this week was really about just kind of getting back in the groove of things. Next week, we're going to have a competition, and we're going to be shooting for score on the competition. So we'll be back with you on Monday with what all is involved with that. And Rich, you're going to put a scoreboard up?
I don't know if I'm going to put a scoreboard up or if I'm just going to put a participant level. I just want to go, for our end of the 14 days, we're going to award someone with a prize, and just being active each day in the challenge is what's going to be there. But when it comes to a couple like the Dunk It Challenge or something like that, we'll probably keep track of that and put something up.
So you got a putting video coming out too, right?
I've got 2 for putting. I've got 1 for distance check, and I've also got 1 for setup and alignment. So we'll drop those in next week. Just really confirming what you need to be set with. Like you want a consistent setup, especially with putting. So I've got a couple of options that you can pick one. It's also good if like this will come in handy next year as well. If you consistently do these checks with your setup and alignment, when you come off an off season, you've got these reference points to go back on. So if this is the first time that you've had or first time that you're incorporating these type of checks into your game, this will be your reference point for next time.
Yeah, I mean, we're really like we talked about on the last podcast, getting ready for the season, it's all about distance for me and just getting my feel back, because the distance control is the big problem here. Your swing is probably going to come back pretty quickly, but it's your distance control and learning what those distances are, because they're going to change. You've gotten older, or you may have gotten younger, depending on what universe you're in listening to this.
Yeah. Distance control is everything. Think about it. We almost never have a complete shot. Like if we hit our 7-iron 165 yards, go through your round and see how many times do you have that exact yardage. So it's always about distance control. You're always going to be looking at your surroundings to incorporate the data. Are you pumped up, or is there some wind factor? You're on a downhill lie, uphill lie, side. So there's so many factors that come into it. So the distance control is critical, and so that's what we're working on first, just to warm up your game, getting back into some distance control checks, and then we can flow into the other stuff.
The best golfers are the ones that can control their distance the best. Now I have a question. Hold on just real quick. Alexa, stop. Alexa, volume 5. Alexa, who is Richard Guzzo?
I'm not sure what you meant by that question.
Alexa, who is Tiger Woods?
Eldrick Tom, Tiger Woods is an American professional golfer who is among the most successful golfers of all time.
All right.
And on that note, we'll see you next week.